Hi everybody, Nick Blazier back here with another position analysis video. This one I've got kind of a set of positions actually, but it's an interesting one that came up in my match with Michi. All three of these positions came up in like the last week, I think. I had two more almost like, I don't know, very similar decisions. You'll see what I'm talking about here. All of them 6-4s like this position. All of them with the little 4 prime, I think. Yeah, something like it. But yeah, we'll get into this in a minute. You know, think about what your play would be there. But just really quickly before we get started, I want to share, of course, all the upcoming tournaments I'll be doing commentary for. So go check out, coming up next is the Gibraltar Backgammon Championship. I'll be doing remote commentary for that. You can find it on their channel. San Antonio I'll be at live, as well as London. Be doing remote commentary for the Loot Rocky one, and then on site again in Virginia is the plan. But yeah, so without further ado, back to this position. Usually in these sorts of positions, when we have this really strong 4 prime, we like to keep that in front of our opponent, and it's not so much fun to give up our pure structure to break, you know, and hit. But there's not a whole lot of options here. You know, it doesn't seem very clear what exactly we should do otherwise. But over the board, I think Michi agreed with me too. I was playing against him on this one. I mean, we don't want to run to a losing race. We don't really want to touch our back checkers against this blitzing formation. So the only play B I really see is to just play behind to the 3, which of course looks really weak, but its strength is that it keeps the structure in front. But here, if you want to go ahead and look at it, we should actually break the 8 and hit the 4. And Michi was pretty shocked with this. I was as well, because I think it's pretty tempting in these positions to get used to never giving up this structure. And just like that doesn't really cross your mind that you would break the 8 to hit loose and board, because this priming point's so strong already. But so why is it different here? Well, for sure we can see after the 13-3 play that I made over the board, if we look at the final position, well, the biggest risk here is that our opponent just escapes and gets to escape to a winning race. And because we're not willing to split against this blitzing structure, we also don't see the outfield well at all. So if our opponent can hop out and land out there, you know, it's not that much risk. They're threatening to cash in on a winning race. There's small numbers, of course, too. This could be just a tactics thing where big numbers get to run and small numbers are making a nice point and board to kind of keep us back too. And finally, when we play the 13-3, now when our opponent hops out to the 9-10, our 9-10 or 11 point, we have a stripped midpoint. And so we have to give up our connection to the back checkers to hit back, which is going to be a really weak position to follow up on. So for all those reasons, it's better to just bring the checker into the zone, hit loose, and turn this into an attack, take the tempo away so our opponent can improve. Strange play. But, you know, of course, the temptation is always we see something like this occur, and we think, well, I just need to be more willing to break the 8 and hit, I guess, you know? So I had only briefly seen this. I didn't really spend a lot of time studying it or trying to figure out exactly why this was right in this position. And so not long later, the following play came up in a money game against Play Hunter Facebook, which I've got those play and explains coming out too. By the way, that last match you can go see on Michi's channel. We did a match where we kept talking together. But yeah, so this position came up. Now I don't have the priming structure, and you know it looks kind of reasonable, more reasonable to turn this into an attack of sorts. I like the contact of my goalkeeper, I think, but yeah, I don't know. I just, without thinking about it too hard, I just thought I'm going to learn a lesson from that last one, and it looks like an opportunity where I could hit loose, so I'm gonna, because I have the better board. And here it's a pretty sizable mistake to do that. Because we have such an obvious, you know, nice alternative in this stepping up, making this structure. And we do have this really nice priming point. This back checker is not at the edge, so it's going to have a harder time escaping. We have 2 checkers behind the prime, which tends to be a little stronger. And after I step up, I'm pretty close in the race too. So I have a decent plan that way, you know. So I'm actually favorite after either play in this one. But now it's a bit of an overplay to play down there and try to keep this contact with 3 back. I mean, it tends to be that an attacking game plan is a lot weaker when we have 3 checkers back like this. So if I want to go for an attack, I really need to mobilize that checker first, probably. So it seems a little bit like trying to do too much all at once to hit loose in this one, you know? But the lesson here, really, to me, is that it's very tempting when we see like a position that we make a mistake in. It's very easy to learn the wrong idea from it, right? So if we looked at this last position, the first one, and thought, well, that means that, you know, I should like hitting from 8 to 4. If that's the lesson we learned from the position, then it's very easy to make that mistake in this position, right? And now we're making a blunder on the other side, and we learn again, oh, I should never break my 8 to hit loose on the 4, right? So it's really important to study all those details of the position too, and try to understand, you know, it's more about game plan. It's not about this structure and what we do or don't do with the 8 point. It's about all the checkers on the board all at once. And so you wouldn't believe it, but a couple days later, I played Hunter again, and this position came up where I have the opportunity again to play a 6-4 and maybe tempo hit on the edge. So you can think about this one for a brief moment, you know, kind of think about what you'd do here. But having seen the last two positions, well, we're way down in the race in this one. So hitting seems like a nicer option that way, because we can't do anything just constructive to hang on to our, you know, our close race. On the flip side, we have 3 checkers back this time. So a blitz should be pretty weak here, right? Back to the first position, one big issue we have is that we're going to struggle to contain after non-hitting plays. Our opponent's at the edge with just 1 checker. If they can escape to the outfield, they're doing really well. So our play B probably looks like 16 to 12 and 13 to 7, setting up to attack next time. But then 8s are going to hit loose in the outfield. A lot of numbers are going to hop out and threaten just a single shot to getting home. And so it seems like we're going to be in a lot of trouble if we just play quiet here. So what did you come up with for this one? You know, it feels like the same class of positions. And, you know, when we look at it here, we're going to find out that in this particular example, bring the XG feedback here, they're nearly tied. You can do either in this one. So we found a great break-even case. That's really exciting. When you're studying these styles of positions, you need things like this too. It's really nice to have one where both plans are nearly equal. And then if you feel like anything is slightly stronger in one direction or the other, now we have a good reference for the other positions to try to figure out whether or not we should break the 8 to hit. So what's different about this one? You know, we kind of talked through all those things. So in this context, you know, given that we choose to hit when we're like way down in the race and don't have more to catch up with, things like that, when we're taking a tempo away, when our opponent threatens to escape, you know, we see all those here. And we prefer not to when we have the 3 checkers back, so it's balancing pretty well. So it should, you know, in reference to this one, if we go back to the Michi position then, maybe this one looks a little bit easier to hit now because, you know, the opponent's threatening at the edge, and now we actually gain quite a bit with that loose hit. You know, we don't have the 3 checkers back, so we can really legitimately threaten the attack game plan. And finally, oh, what was the last one I was going to say? Oh, yeah, we take away the tempo hit too. Like our opponent's going to do something constructive. So in this break-even case, when I come over here, there isn't as much tempo gain. I wouldn't call it tempo gain. We prevent our opponent from hopping out from the edge. You know, with 6s and 5s, that's a lot of numbers. But after we go for the hitting play, we're probably going to be having quite a few numbers that are going to run anyway, right? I don't know, well, 4s of course are bad, but then we have 3, 5, and 3, 6, and 2, 6. So it's probably a similar, like, number of bad rolls that are nearly escaping, more or less. So I don't think the tempo is all that different. I don't think we're really like buying ourselves time with that roll, if that makes sense. But yeah, in the Michi position, we did. So all those things pointed very strongly to hitting loose. And then when we come back to the other one where we should not hit, in this one, well, we have 3 back, so our blitz is weak. Yeah, we don't take any tempo away in this one either. So it looks like we're not going to gain a whole lot there. We have good race, and we can kind of camp out on that and try to play a holding game. We have this simple alternative here, right? And after this play too, we're not at risk of our opponent running and like capturing the game with this front checker. He has another checker back, so our prime's a lot stronger here, right? So this swings it pretty dramatically towards the priming play. So yeah, I think this is the power too of trying to categorize your mistakes and learn from them and keeping some sort of blunder database, is that it's nearly impossible to learn all of the correct concepts if you're just looking at one position and trying to understand what the right play is. You can see through here that in the context of 3 positions together, it's a lot easier to understand the concept of when to break the 8 to hit and when not to. And there's probably all kinds of factors that we'd miss if we weren't looking at a bunch of positions together. And maybe there's more that we still have to learn. If I go through my database too, there are probably other situations where a hit is called for and other situations where priming is better. So yeah, kind of collecting them into groups somehow is very helpful. I'll probably just put these all into a single note, and maybe game plan is like the high level category that I'll look at these. But some people gain from like very specific categories like this, like break the 8 to hit or something like that. Yeah, maybe that's a category you could use for it. But yeah, I think the categories being correct is not the important part there. I've talked about this in another video. And just that you put thought into it in a way that helps you remember it and address them as a group, if that makes sense, the positions. So yeah. All right. Well, I hope you learned something from this one. Tune in every Monday and Thursday for more of these position analysis videos. Fridays I got interviews, and for now I've got some Play and Explains coming out on Saturdays. We'll see if I can keep that going. And yeah, please do subscribe to the channel. If you don't mind, like these videos. I really appreciate getting out to more people that way. It's fun putting all the hard work into this, but I want to see it like grow into something too and get out to more people if I'm going to keep making videos. So yeah, you can help me out that way. All right. Thanks everybody. Bye for now. We'll be back soon.